I believe that we can move on to law and licensing. Is that, yeah. That was a long finance. Okay. Chair Carey, your time starts at 1, just to give you guys a heads up. So
Understood. And it's my understanding, Chair, we're picking up with item 9.1. Is that correct?
please, yes.
So this is item 9.1. This is the proposed agreement between, I believe it's Marika Timmer and USBE for data. The last time this was heard by the board, there were several members with concerns. We addressed those with Director Chalice. I would say that Ms. Timmer, to her credit, reached out within a day or two of the board meeting, and without any type of negotiation or if you do this, I'll do this, she agreed to the privacy restrictions, even though it wasn't really required in our agreement. But the motion for the board is that the board approve the data sharing agreement with Marika Timmer, USBE 25007 3RA.
Thank you, Chair Carey. The motion before the board is that the board approve the data sharing agreement with Marika Timmer, USBE 25007-3RA. Not seeing any lights. Let's go ahead and vote. That passes 14 in favor, one opposed, that opposition coming from Member Bogus. I want to thank our team. I know this is kind of unique where the turnaround and it happens so quickly. I don't want to repeat everything that Chair Carey said, but Marika is here online. We appreciate her time and her willingness to recognize our concerns and to take a proactive approach of adjusting her research rather than saying, like Joe mentioned, you know, let this slide a little bit. She didn't do that, so we appreciate that, and thank you, Marika. Back to you, Chair Carey.
Thank you, Chair. The next item from law and licensing is item 10.2, R277-217, educator standards and LEA reporting. And the motion for the board is that the board approve R277-217, educator standards and LEA reporting, draft 2 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-217, educator standards and LEA reporting, draft 2 on second and final reading. I've got Vice Chair Bollinger, and then I've got Member Bogus.
Thank you, Chair. As we worked in our committee on this, there were a couple of words in here that we had discussed possibly pulling out, and I think it was an oversight that we didn't. So I would like to make an amendment, make a motion, excuse me, to on line 14 strike and accountability, and on line 17 strike accountability standards, as they're not well, actually, I'll get a second, and then I'll speak to the motion.
Second.
Okay, let's make sure that, so I can read that back correctly.
Yes, strike on line 14, it would be strike and accountability. And on line 17, strike accountability standards. Draft 2.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, would you like to, the motion's been made, it's been seconded. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Yes, just in our discussion, the wording was added. It's a little bit out of context for what this policy or this rule is focusing on, and so it's not really applicable in this context.
Okay. Member Bogus, to the motion, or are you in a queue? Okay, so the motion is to Strike line 14, we're on draft 2 currently. Strike line 14 where it says and accountability, and on line 17 where it says accountability standards. Let's vote. That passes 14 in favor, 1 abstention coming from Member Green. Member Bogus.
Thank you, Chair. I move to postpone this to the October board meeting.
There's a motion to postpone to the October board meeting. Is there a second? Second, speak to your motion.
We are at, what is it, 3:20? We are at 4 o'clock. And this, I mean, my amendments alone will take us. I think it's just a prudent decision to move this to the October board meeting, let things play out in committee tomorrow, and get our work done then when we have more time and we're not pressed for time.
Seeing no other lights, there's a motion to postpone to the October board meeting, full board meeting. Let's go ahead and vote. That motion fails. 9 against, 6 in favor. Those in favor being Member Green, Member Brinton, Member Kelly, Member Hymas, Member Longacre, and Member Bogus. Member Bogus.
So I have a question on line number 34. Not line 34, I apologize. Draft 2. Oh, I gotta find it. Not yet. Oh, on line 31. Sorry, I was looking for red and blue. To me, and maybe this is a question for Director Rasmussen, so through you, Chair, I'm wondering, why is the word consensual necessary? Is it okay to engage in non-consensual activity? Why are we clarifying?
Is that rhetorical or is that?
No, it's not rhetorical. I
And you got-
genuinely am wondering why we're clarifying, why we're not just saying engaging in sexual activity on school grounds.
I think we're distinguishing this from other types of cases which are already covered under the rules. This is specifically for consensual sexual activity. Ben Rasmussen, Director of Law and Professional Practice.
May I follow up?
Thank you, Ben. Yes, please.
So where else in this rule is non-consensual activity covered?
29, 22, and there.
You're just
27.
You're just saying lines.
Yes,
Is that
line
right?
numbers,
Not
yes.
sections. Okay, so
Yeah.
29, 27, 22.
There's
Or-
probably some others.
Maybe not 22, but 22 says be convicted of a
That would
felony.
implicate sexual conduct a lot of the time. I mean, there's a number of sections that involve that.
And this was discussed in committee, so I might, if there's somebody from committee, unless you already know what was discussed in committee and
No, I listened. I just think it's weird to put in there. I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Is there a reason we repeat race, color, creed, sex, all those things over and over again? Is there a reason we can't create a definition and just synthesize this in a more succinct manner?
Is that to Ben as well? Or
Yeah.
just kind of
That
Yeah.
should be a question for Chair Carey, who made that proposal.
Chair Carey, go ahead.
Yeah, we looked at this in committee, and I wouldn't say it was an exact replication of Board Member Bogus's concern, but we looked at this list, had a discussion. Our discussion focused really on line 91, but in the end, we left it as is.
Okay, so if I could direct us to line 99. And maybe someone can give me a greater context. It says that an educator shall not use the educator's position through language, instruction, materials, symbols to actively endorse, promote, or disparage another individual's race, color. I'm wondering how that differs from what is there currently, because to me what is there currently is better language than this change. It's just a question I'd like to have more context on.
Not sure where that's directed. Chair Carey, you want to tackle that?
And again, I'm speaking from my understanding, not necessarily the committee, but we added the language part before that was excluded from the rule, but we wanted to make it clear that it just wasn't instruction, it was any kind of language. And then just, we thought, made it more clear with the editing that took place in lines 100 and 101. So we did think we strengthened it by adding language.
Member Bogus?
Sorry, sir. So I apologize, Member Carey. That actually wasn't really my question. It was, how does another individual's and then the words that follow strengthen what is here? Because, and what I'm thinking about is you've got a homogeneous room full of all people of a single race. So they're not offending each other. Can they still make racist comments? As long as they're not offending anybody in the room, the behavior's okay?
Could I ask where it's talking? I mean,
I'm
we're
on line
using the-
99 and
No,
100. The way
yeah.
this language is framed,
But you're saying offending, and offending is not in there. Offending is irrelevant in from what I'm understanding, right? You
What-
cannot.
and I understand that, but can we disparage as long as it's not another individuals in the room? Like, it just doesn't read.
I would say, and this is just me, and remember, Chair Carey, if you want to speak up, go ahead. But I have had deals where students of certain ethnicities, race or color, refer to each other as certain slang terms that are not appropriate, and that is shut down pretty quickly. And so I think that this doesn't matter if you're all the same race, color, religion, sex, it doesn't matter. You still don't get to go after somebody for that.
Well, I would agree, but that's not the way this is written. The way it's written that says that an educator cannot use their position to disparage another individual's, which would imply proximity or reference within the building.
Remember, Carrie, your light came on?
Yeah, I don't read it that way. This is a prohibition on the educator's position and his or her conduct. And I think that regardless of the proximity to the student, if they use language, instruction, materials, symbols to do that, then they would be in violation of this provision. I don't see proximity there at all.
So I have a motion, and then I'd like to strike another individuals and restore the language that's present there, and then strike lines 103 through 113 and 102. 102 can remain struck.
We'll just wait a moment so we can make sure it's written correctly on the screen for
Okay,
you.
I appreciate that.
Member Bogus, does that reflect your motion?
Ben, Ben, it's just 100 through 102, and strike 102 through 113. And I apologize if I misspoke. Yeah, we don't want the 102 in there.
Well,
Yes.
are you on my copy that I'm on? 101 would end with the word viewpoint, and
Yep.
in a matter of so you
Yep.
want to leave the in a.
Just viewpoint, period.
Okay. Okay, does that reflect your motion now?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is that the board strike another individuals, reinsert lines 100 to 101, and strike 102 to 113. Is there a second to that motion? Okay.
Second.
Second by Member Kelly.
Okay, so the motion is that the board strike another individuals from line 100 and reinsert the rest of 100 through 101. Additionally, strike 102 through 113. Member Carey.
Let's speak against the motion. I believe this was a staff change, and the way it was explained to me, and it makes sense, is that if you read the language that is struck on lines 100 and 101, it really refers to religious, denominational, sectarian, agnostic, so a religious type of prohibition. By adding these other elements, you really are protecting the students on a much bigger basis, right? So it's not just that the instructor can't disparage religion or religious or faith-based things, but now they're prohibited from doing that in terms of race, color, religious beliefs, sex, national origin, marital status, all the way down through family, social, or cultural background, sexual orientation, or gender identification. So I looked at this again and thought, I don't want an instructor not just disparaging a student because of their faith. I don't want him disparaging a student because of their race, their color, religious beliefs, that list. So that's why I would speak against the motion.
Member Earl, and then, sorry.
Yeah, if I
Member Earl.
remember from committee, because this change was made in committee, that the discussion was around that which is already written within law. And so where the other provisions are not necessarily spelled out in law, these particular pieces were, so it gave a little more clarity on the protections there. So
Member Bogus.
So I'm a little bit perplexed because now we can no longer have Latinos in action because we can't promote Latino things. We can't have the Girls on the Run Club. It just, to me, this opens up doors that can be ripe for abuse. I understand your point, and I agree with you in that space, but the way this is worded, actively endorse, promote, or disparage, if it reads just disparage, it reads differently, but is it our intention to get rid of all those programs because we can now no longer actively endorse or promote them?
Okay. So the motion then is that the board strike another individuals from line 100, reinsert the rest of 100 and 101, and strike 102 to 113. Your light is still on.
Oh,
Do you have another comment, question? What?
no, I just don't think my light was shut off. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay. Member Lear?
I'd like to explain my vote. I'm going to vote no. And it's not only because I prefer the language that exists, but it's primarily because my preference, and when I heard from multiple people, school district people, attorneys who represent school districts, their concern about these individual changes, many of which were in draft 3, were that the language was not only objectionable, but that there hadn't been public discussion and an opportunity for stakeholders to weigh in on this. So my vote is because of that primarily, and why I will continue to vote no to any proposed changes in these rules, because I believe they need to be looked at holistically with greater discussion and input with school districts, charter schools, HR directors, and others who have invested in this professional practices process.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. And this question, I guess, would be directed to staff through you, Chair, if I may. Just curious to know, and maybe this goes to AAG Bill, maybe Director Rasmussen can answer, to Member Bogus's point. Is that when she talks about how the language as is would preclude staff members from supporting Latinos in Action or some of those other support groups for students, is that how this is read or would be applied?
Ben, please.
I think Board Member Bogus has a point that particular those two things, endorse or promote, could be interpreted awkwardly in that regard. I don't think that's the intent, but I think it could be interpreted awkwardly there.
Okay. So we come back to the motion that the board strike another individuals from line 100, reinsert the rest of 100 and 101, and strike 102 to 113. Seeing no additional lights, let's vote.
Brenton is a yes.
Thank you, Member Brenton. Do we have Brenton's? Yeah, you're just waiting for mine. So that passes 9 against, 6 in favor. That fails. I'm sorry. Thank you. That fails. 9 against, 6 in favor. Those in favor being Member Hymas, Member Brenton, Member Longacre, Member Bogus, Member Bollinger, and Member Green. Okay. Member Bogus.
Thank you. I'd like to take us to line 134. How does a teacher, as required conduct, promote the health? And genuine question, because it was asked to me last night by a constituent. Do we just force carrots and celery upon them? How are we, as a standard of behavior, promoting health? Because I had to really ask myself some questions there too.
I could throw some ideas out, quite frankly. I'm going to promote health by modeling for students, right? I would promote health by maybe if they said to me, and this is just like anecdotal, but if they're like, man, maybe I should go here for lunch or here. And I say, well, the healthier choice is, you know what I mean? There's a myriad of ways in which we can promote health. I don't know if we're going to force, I don't know, I need more
Well, I think
context
the
to your
question
question.
is this is required conduct. So if teachers don't promote health, then wherein is the consequence if they don't promote health?
So maybe if they're encouraging smoking, that's an issue.
Are we going to take their license for it?
Well, we could definitely give them a letter of warning or something.
So the question that was asked of me, so I'm asking it of us,
Sure.
is what do we mean by that? And it's a required conduct. So if it's required conduct, what is the definition of health?
Okay. Well, I don't have an answer for you. I'm just going to move on because nobody else has a light on. Hold on a second. Let me get your mic. Go ahead.
I'd like to go to line 138.
138.
So this says, take prompt and appropriate action to stop, mitigate, and prevent harassment, hostile, intimidating, abusive, offensive, oppressive, or inappropriate language or conduct. Really? I don't know how all of these words came about, but I would like to welcome us all to America where we have the right to be offended. And not always can a teacher stop, mitigate, or prevent kids from being offensive. And if we're going to hold them, I mean, it's no secret that I've dug through these things and had 60 meetings with many of you over this. Like, we're going to ask them to stop offensive behavior as a standard. And if they don't, nothing makes you reflect more on your behavior as a teacher than when you're combing through these things. And this, I just don't even know how to respond to this. And I would make a motion to remove that language, intimidating. I just don't even know how to respond. Just remove all the blue language. Yes,
I think your response is emotion.
I just moved.
So what are we removing? The
Hostile and-
the blue language, all of it?
All of the blue language.
So your amendment here is to strike on line 138 the new language or blue language,
blue
but
language.
I want to make clear the hostile, intimidating, abusive, offensive, oppressive, or.
Yes.
Okay.
And with a second, I would be happy to speak to that motion.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Go ahead.
So I think inappropriate language is a pretty broad, all-encompassing term. But when you ask teachers to prevent hostile language, I mean, what is hostile language? So you're having a conversation in class and a kid says, duh. Is it hostile? And then are we going to hold them to a standard that they didn't stop, mitigate, or prevent that behavior, which was a spontaneous utterance from a child? What about when kids spontaneously utter, hey, stupid? Like, we're into intimidating, abusive, offensive. I can't imagine a place where we're putting this language in here and we're using it in cohort with stop, mitigate, and prevent. Because I am in control of my behavior in the classroom and students are in control of theirs. I can't prevent a kid from doing anything. It can mitigate it, but there's no way a teacher can prevent kids from saying what they want to say. And I just think it's too high of a standard. And with that, I'm going to close my mouth.
Yeah, just to speak to it briefly, I know a lot of this stuff touches close to home for me, who has been a teacher and been in education for a long time. I hear what you're saying, and I'm actually for the motion. But I do, when I look at this, take prompt and appropriate action to stop, mitigate, and prevent. Well, of course I'm going to do that. You know, in your examples, if somebody says, hey, stupid, of course I'm going to be like, hey, that's not appropriate here. That's me stopping it, right? Right? That's me putting an end to it. Yes. And so I do think that those things are still covered in here. What I believe the committee is simply saying is, whenever you see something like this, and this isn't an exhaustive list, I wouldn't think, but when you see something as an adult in the room, teach, correct, right, and end it as quickly as possible. So with that, I've got Member Carey, Member Davis, and then I think that's where we are. So Member Carey.
I would speak against the motion because what we're saying is that the teacher, the educator, has the duty to stop, mitigate, or prevent inappropriate language or conduct, but abusive language and conduct, no, they don't have any duty to stop that. And what we're saying is that yes, the educator has a duty to stop, mitigate, or prevent inappropriate language or conduct, but not language or conduct that's intimidating or oppressive or offensive. And it just seems that we're drawing that standard, setting a very low bar. And I think this more clearly expresses those types of conduct that, yeah, we don't want tolerated in our schools.
Member Davis.
I would say I agree with the word prevent. You know, that's a difficult word because you can stop and you can mitigate. It's very hard to prevent, but you can try. You can certainly set expectations in your class. You can certainly try to prevent. But it doesn't say try. But looking at it in total, I just, what are you left? If you don't do these things, then what are you left with when this happens? The opposite then is just allowing it, and I can't support that either.
Member Bogus.
So, may I respond to Member Carey? So, Member Carey, I agree with your point, but I don't think removing the language says this board thinks it's okay. I think it's encompassed in inappropriate language and conduct. Conduct can be abusive, it can be offensive. And I would be more okay if we struck the word prevent. To stop and mitigate harassment, hostile, intimidating, or etc. I think when you use the word prevent, that's an untenable situation for a teacher. They can only control their behavior, and they can prevent and create a classroom environment that's conducive to learning and hopefully free of these things. But sometimes kids come in from recess and they come in from the playground and they're spouting words that were never part of their classroom. And I just think we're setting a bar that is so high it can't be reached. And I'm not opposed to high bars, but I think we're in a place where we can't. If this fails, I would remove the word prevent. So it's just a thought for the board to consider. Thank you.
Member Earl.
I think to just have it as inappropriate in a document that's saying these are the standards. I think it has to spell that out. I think we have to have hostile, intimidating. We're saying these are not acceptable here. I would speak against removing prevent. I think the main thing we do when you establish a classroom, when you establish a school setting, is you set a standard of this is the way we're going to behave in this school. That is prevention. And to say, well, just stop or mitigate, but don't worry about preventing. Preventing is a proactive approach. And yes, you can't prevent everything from coming in, right? I don't remember the last UPAC case that I saw that was like, oh, they didn't prevent da 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 da. But I would say I've seen a lot there's been, not a lot, but where there's been intimidating or abusive or oppressive things take place. So I don't think that's the right direction to go. I think this lands in a good spot, in a good direction.
Member Green.
I think that I don't agree with leaving prevent with the blue. So prevent, hostile, intimidate, abusive, offensive, oppressive, because I feel like prevent clarifies with the combination of prevent harassment or inappropriate language or conduct. The blue words for me fall in the realm of conduct. But in this board meeting, throughout the 2.5 years I've been here, sometimes the accusation has been made when things get intense, it's offensive. When a board member thought that, and I thought we were having an extremely productive conversation. It's up for interpretation. Yes, we want to prevent, but we see laws over in Europe right now where something was perceived as offensive and they go to jail. At what point are we crossing boundaries? I personally believe that as good intentioned as it is, I feel that prevent is clarified better without adding the words in blue. So I would support the motion on the table. If we were to proceed with the blue, then I would encourage taking out prevent. You cannot prevent offense. As much as you want to think you can't prevent it. You can encourage it, you can mitigate it, you can set your rules out, but then you become that's the slippery slope. And I would argue that in our schools right now, it is a slippery slope, and we need to be mindful of that.
Member Kelly?
Yeah, Christina and I were over here having this, so I figured I'd bring it before the full board. But you're asking, okay, inappropriate behavior if two boys are fighting with each other, a physical nose-to-nose fight, right? In terms of stopping that, if they are engaged in the fight, then I have an obligation to try to stop that fight, right? If they are nose to nose, and there's been no punches thrown yet, I can step in between it before that starts to happen. And so I have an opportunity to prevent it from happening, right? Before it escalates into the actual fight. And so I'm just trying to do all three of those need to be there. I think I have an obligation to prevent it from happening if I have that opportunity. And so that's, I don't have to wait until they start throwing punches before I stop it. So.
Okay, Member Bogus? We good? Are you just queued up? I'd love to get to the voting here. Member Davis?
I think you can take preventative measures, but you can never be 100% compliant to prevent. You can be compliant in stopping, you can be compliant in mitigating, you can take preventative measures, but you cannot always prevent, no matter how much you try.
Member Bogus?
But no, please go ahead. So I don't know if we want to bifurcate this and such, but we can't prevent offense. I would ditto Member Green's response there. And as much as we might try, a teacher cannot, beyond coerced speech and saying nothing and telling kids you cannot speak until you're spoken to, you can't even prevent abusive speech. Kids are kids. From the time they're 5 till the time they leave us in 12th grade, they say dumb stuff. And this is a space where we are asking teachers to be they're just in a space that's untenable. And I understand the idea of prevention methods, but we can't prevent kids from being offensive, and nor can we prevent them from being offended. Like, that's not within the realm of my control. I cannot control how kids act. I can influence it greatly, but I cannot control it. And I'm done.
I'm going to make one comment on this. I'm going to give you one example of how you can prevent this kind of conduct, and if there's one, there's more, right? But the prevention, in my opinion, and I get that this is mostly in charter schools, but I can prevent offense by a uniform, a dress code. I can prevent offense. So again, I've got others that we can talk about for a while, but there are ways or areas in which this can apply. So I'm not sure if I'm speaking, honestly, I haven't decided on where I'm voting yet, speaking for or against the motion, but I do see where either direction it goes, inappropriate language or conduct encompasses these other words here. Member Bogus, yeah.
I think you make a great point, Chair Hymas. My question is, should you lose your license if you don't do school uniforms, if you knew that installing school uniforms could have prevented offense? You knew it could have prevented offense. You chose not to do school uniforms. Somebody complains about you, and you're here before this board. That's my question. Is that really where we want to take this in this space?
Are you looking for a response or? Okay.
Extraordinary discomfort, and I am not opposed to high standards at all. Please.
Okay. No, I was waiting. You were talking. I was giving you the mic. No, we will hash this out offline, and we'll move on. I know that there's other comments here. Like I said, I just gave you one example. There's many, and you have many, quite frankly, as a teacher. I know you take preventative measures every day. If not, it would be chaos. So anyway, I've got Member Lear.
Thank you. And I just had one brief comment, and I think the comment I've heard a couple of times, several times, is that, do we take a license for this? That's a more complicated process, actually. But this rule is not just about taking licenses. It's about educating, warning, reprimanding. So yes, I would say one of those things might be in order if a teacher does not prevent something. And we can argue about if that's possible or not, but it's important to me to note that this rule is about cautioning educators as well as the more draconian consequences.
Okay, the motion before the board then is that the board strike on lines, that the committee, now we're on board, that the board strike the new language in blue on line 138. Let's go ahead and vote.
I apologize. Did I not say and restore the original language? Did I not say that?
Well, there's no original language on 138 that's being removed. Yes. Go ahead.
I intended my motion to strike the blue language and to restore the red language on 139 through 141. And if I misspoke, I do apologize. The intent of my motion, what I meant to say was to strike that blue language and to restore the red language that
Okay.
results in a hostile, intimidating environment.
So the motion then is to, on 138, strike the new language on line 138 and then reinsert the stricken language found on lines 139 through 141.
Yes. I believe that is a better way of stating that. I think it's a high standard that we can hold teachers to. And I apologize for interrupting the vote, but without
think
objection.
that was important. That's an important addition. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote then.
Brenton is a yes.
Thank you, Member Brenton. That passes 9 in favor, 5 in opposition, those opposed being Member Davis, Member Bollinger, Member Lear, Member Earl, and Member Carey, and Chair Carey. Board members, I recognize that we are in the middle of an agenda item. It is 4:43. We have a hard stop at 6 for an event tonight. We've got a lot of work to get done ahead of us. I'm throwing this out there. I'm not sure what to do, quite frankly. I know we have a closed session. Thank you. Sorry, I just had to look away for a second. A closed session that we'd like to get to. We actually have some guests that will be joining in a portion of that. Can we take? I know I'm saying we don't have time, but I need to take time to figure out what we need to do here. So Kelsey, can we take 5 minutes and just kind of get a consensus here? Thank you.